Welcome, everyone, to the Fall Balance Patch preview. Now, Relic is coming out with a patch for Company of Heroes 2, and it is another community curated balance patch. There's going to be, of course, the balance mod, and there's a game already that I think I'm going to cast right after this one. In fact, it might be in the same video. I don't know. If it's a different video, remember after the balance patch overview that I'm doing right now, to click on it to see how it performs. Yes, the focus is apparently team game balance. Now, this is absolutely blind. I've never seen this patch or the changes before, so bear with me. I'll have a couple of minutes to actually take in all of it. Now, the prioritized scope for the game balance has been focused around tank destroyers and on-map artillery. Quite a good focus, although I'm not sure about tank destroyers. I mean, I always felt that they worked fine. On-map artillery, yeah. In general, artillery should probably receive some tweaks in Company of Heroes. In team games, artillery can be very, very dominant. Second goal was to test some fundamental changes for how anti-air calling units and forward retreat points work in game. Okay, that's pretty okay, because forward retreat points and calling units, well, calling units just like, well, whatever. But forward retreat points, that is interesting. I'm intrigued. Okay, general changes. Anti-air. We've adjusted the way anti-air RNG works to ensure AA units can bring down aircraft at a more consistent and predictable rate. Okay, so they all have 240 health. I do not know what they had before, so don't really have a comparison meter. Planes that cannot be attacked as paradrop planes are still immune to AA, of course. Good. Def critical on deflection removed from all AA weapons. Never mind. That nothing really too major. And half tracks are. Oh, half tracks now carry mortars, HMGs, and Panzerwerfers. Of course, the weapon teams will not be able to fire their crude weapons on their open-topped half tracks. This is actually a pretty good buff for half tracks because, well, you're going to be able to ship around pretty critical weapons around the map and maybe get them into a critical location before the fight breaks out. And of course, positioning being key with team weapons. That extra mobility from the half track may just really give a bit of a leg up for those units. And of course, for the half track in combination with them. Weapon teams are already really good for half tracks, with half tracks in general, because of course you could recruit them and reinforce them, and then reinforce the infantry that recruit them, on map. So that was pretty good as well, without really having the cumbersome, setup, go back to base, or I guess, pack up, go back to base, set up, etc., etc. That's pretty fine. Blitzkrieg, Overdrive, War Speed, step on it. So all the movement speed for vehicles. Then will now cease when the vehicle receives an engine critical. I thought that was already the case. Oh well, that's good. Makes sense. Forward retreat points are now modified to act as a mid-late game. These changes aim to bring UKF and OKW in line with the USF. For example, requires the Major to access the retreat point. And limit players from digging in too early before counters such as light vehicles and AoE are available, particularly in team games. So the forward retreat point for the UK requires the company command post. Okay, instead of the just the platoon command post to get the sappers. OKW forward retreat point requires either a mechanized or a Schwerpanzer quarters established. Okay, so I see what they're doing. They're trying to disallow people who just like charge in. I thought that was already the purpose of having the OKW forward retreat point upgrade be a thing. But it turns out that now they're going to go even further with that, which is probably a step in the right direction, because forward retreat points can be very, very strong, and they can be especially really, really annoying to fight against. Not very fun. So OKW battle group is unable to reinforce if cut off from friendly territory. Finally, that makes a lot of sense, and that should have been the case since the start. 60-second cooldown between toggles. Oh, okay. So I think toggles is in toggle the retreat point on and off. 40-second delay after the forward retreat point is triggered or turned off before the changes take effect. Now that I think is a little bit too much, and it should probably be tuned down to something like 15 seconds. Because really all that does is decrease the responsiveness time and sort of decrease the quality of life of using forward retreat points. So I think that that's a little bit too much. Perhaps some other type of nerf can be substituted for that. But anyway, calling unit changes. So they're trying to either lock in the calling unit to tech, increase its calling cost, or cooldown duration, or in most cases give the calling unit an inflated pre-tech cost. Okay. I thought they already had a pre-tech cost, which will be reduced to normal. And to normal levels in case the unit. Okay, I like that a lot. Actually, that's a smart idea. So if you're, of course, trying to call in a unit that's supposed to be tier 3, for example, and you don't have the tier 3, you're going to be paying more, but you're still going to be able to call it in. So that is good because it's more choice dependent rather than you cannot or you can do this. So it basically puts more choices in the hands of the players, and yet at the same time restricts those choices meaningfully. So for example, if I just really want something, I can get it out right now, but I'm gonna have to pay a price for it instead of just being able to rush it. Fallen calling units have been adjusted to reflect the changes mentioned above. Now, price premium, I am not sure what this means. Tight attack. Okay, so I'm guessing that price premium is when you have something that requires a certain tech to be at a base price. So you can call in the S2 before you have the tier 4. I'm guessing it's going to be the tier 4, but it's going to be more expensive. I think that's what price premium is supposed to be. See, this is what I really am surprised about Relic sometimes, is that all this looks normal, right? It's explained normally, and then they just throw this term out, price premium, as if we're supposed to know what it means. Anyway, tight attack, I'm guessing you cannot actually call it in before you have tech 4, in which case it's weird because it's basically a T-3485, except it's a call-in vehicle, so it doesn't have the build time, but in every other aspect it's exactly like the T-3485, which needs to be in the tier 4 because you of course build a building. Then price premium, everything looks to be price premium, and I'm guessing that the price premium is the new mechanic with the price increase, which is good because I like that mechanic much more than locking it behind a tech. I think it can really work. Due to the relatively low price of the M10, unit has received a higher markup in manpower when the major has not been deployed. AP shells have their radiant time reduced to fix the responsiveness to start. Okay. So the calling cost of a major tech is 450 to 155. Damn, that's really expensive for an M10. Yeah, that's... I'm not sure how much these prices are going to be increased, but I'm thinking that this is actually higher. So what I think they're actually trying to do is that all these vehicles with the price premium most likely have a percentage-based increase in the price. So of course, because the M10 is already pretty cheap, they're gonna have to do a flat increase. Okay. Wait. No, M10 is price premium. Okay, so they're doing it custom for every vehicle. Okay. So the Sherman Dozer without the major tech is 500 to 175. Damn, these are really expensive. And they increased the penetration for the Dozer, added a 50% deflection damage. I'm guessing that means that when it deflects around, it still takes 50% of the round's damage as damage, even if it does not penetrate. Not 100, or maybe when it fires, even if it doesn't penetrate, it's going to do at least 50% of the damage because it's a howitzer. might be what it's going for. Yeah, I like. Okay, so also moving scatter. Uh, moving scatter increased. Yeah, I think that means it's more inaccurate. Weird. And also CP increased, which is not the most important change, but it's subtly quite important. Veteran C2 now provides 160 health and plus 5 range, that's useful. 35% horizontal traverse, move to Veteran C2. Damn. So Bulldozer's veterancy got a pretty huge buff, it seems. Yeah, it's just got buffed, and also it's cheaper to get. So Bulldozer, of course, because it's mostly an anti-infantry vehicle, it's, well, would have a pretty hard time normally getting veterancy because, of course, you have to damage vehicles to really get it quickly. Pershing got, woo, that's a major price increase to 750, 290. So that's 60 more fuel and 150 more manpower when you don't have the major attack. That's going to be a decent nerf to Cavalry Company as well, and also slightly lower its ability of being able to double shot. Wait, so you're telling me, oh no, this is from 0.5 to 2.5. I'd read from 0.5 to 0.25. Yeah, no. So actually, that's a big nerf to the Pershing as well. That's actually a really big nerf because one of its main selling points, at least for me, was the ability to do the double shot. So what you do is, of course, you would go in, you'd shoot an enemy tank, and then you would immediately use the HVAP ability to do essentially a double shot in about a second. And now it looks like it's going to take basically just almost as much as reloading a round normally to go with the HVAP. Oh well. So Pershing's going to be definitely less useful. M7 Priest, of course, more expensive. Creeping Barrage. Oh, can no longer be decrewed. That's probably smart, so that people don't have like 7 priests. Mid-AoE increased, so it's gone more in line with other howitzers, they say. That's pretty good because the priest did have some problems in that regard. And pop cap reduced. Yeah, the pop cap of the priest was definitely too high. Although I think that it would have been better to move it to 14 rather than 15, but whatever. Sherman Calliope has had its population increase to match our artillery units. Okay, so up to 15, yeah, of course, and more cost without the major. Near AoE distance reduced. Removed reload frequency from 9 to 0. I do not know what that means. Actually, I really do not know what that means. And also the health has been reduced. I don't exactly like that entirely because, again, it's a Sherman Calliope. It's not anything else. Although it's not the biggest health decrease, I kind of like the fact that it was a little bit more sturdy than other artillery. Yeah, it still has the most health and armor of any artillery unit, but I still like that you know, it's a Sherman, so it should be more survivable than, I don't know, a priest. Jackson. Ooh, Jackson buffed. Whoa. Jackson buffed in both health and accuracy, but decreased the range and pretty severely increased the cost from 20 fuel and 50 manpower and 20 fuel more. Ooh, I'm not entirely sure on that. I like the health increase because that makes it more survivable than it used to be. Before, the Jackson used to die in 2 or 3 shots from most enemy things. 2 if it's a really big gun like a Yak Tiger or an Elephant or a Pak 43. 3 if it's like a normal gun, a Panzer IV or something like it, or 3. I'm not sure about 3 Panzerfaust shots, something like it anyway. So that makes it able to survive 1 more round from most of those things. And that's nice because it's actually a very sneaky but very huge buff. The price increase, I guess it's fine. It's not that big. And it encourages you to be a little bit more careful with your Jacksons, which you already should have been, but I like the change. The Jackson can live with those, and in fact I think it's a better unit because of it. A half-track has received damage against aircraft, blah blah blah. Yeah, sure. And some changes for all these things, smoke launchers, blah blah blah. Not really that important. Squad costs to 288, reinforcement for members now standardized to 28. So they standardized the models in the captain and lieutenant because, of course, before, for example, the captain had 2 rear echelon guys, 2 riflemen, and the captain guy who cost like 50, and the lieutenant had the lieutenant who cost like 50 again. I don't really remember. So the officer was more expensive, and then he had riflemen as an escort, which were 28. Not entirely sure. I mean, I did like the flavor of like, oh, the officer's more expensive, but of course, you could just like randomly lose the officer, so it could be frustrating. And they standardized the major as well. That's fine. Sherman Firefly. So the 17-pounder accuracy lowered quite a lot actually. Lowered a lot more than I would have thought, to be in line with its role as an anti-armor hunter. What? I don't really understand. But to be on par with other tank destroyers, that makes sense, but reducing its moving accuracy to be in line with its role as an anti-armor hunter, that makes absolutely no sense, because it was already pretty bad at hitting... Oh no, actually it wasn't that bad at hitting targets on the move. Yeah, it wasn't really that terrible. Anyway, still, it's like, if you're an anti-armor hunter, why shouldn't you be able to hit them on the move? That really doesn't make any sense. It's not... Like, Jagdpanzers chase people all the time, Stugs chase people all the time, Fireflies used to, now they're still going to a little less effectively. Jacksons always chase people. The only real one I'm thinking that doesn't really do the chase is like this Su-85, but because maybe you'd have it on like the focus sight, because of that it's slower so it doesn't chase people, but if it isn't on focus sight you can still try to chase people with it. Anyway, whatever. Tulip's has also been modified mainly for team games to prevent devastating alpha strikes. The rockets will no longer completely stop a tank's movements and prevent them from cancelling a player's movement commands. Okay, so it no longer cancels move commands upon stop, so it's just a quality of life for the person that's having that's on the receiving end, so that he can still like move around without really too many problems. Population for the 17-pounder lowered to reflect its value and match its counterpart, the Pak-43. See, the problem is that the Pak-43 is a weapon more in the vein of a Pak-40, that it can be decrewed really, really easily, than an emplacement in the vein of the 17-pounder. 17-pounder, it's really hard to decrew if you just like shoot an incendiary barrage at the 17-pounder. It's not going to decrew, especially if you brace it. It's not going to take any damage. So it's got more value because of it. Maybe decreasing the population to, I don't know, 16. So essentially a halfway point would have been smarter. Or maybe 17, which is the actual halfway point, but then you have weird issues with, uneven numbers, etc. So 16, 17, 18, something like that would have been better than giving it 14, because 14, the same as the Pak-43, it's really not a fair comparison, right? The Pak-43 is much less valuable than the 17-pounder because the 17-pounder is much more survivable. But anyway, Mortar Pit is adjusted to be less powerful and able to cover such a large area on its own. So the thing is, again, the Mortar Pit is supposed to cover a large area on its own because it can't move. So when comparing the Mortar Pit with other mortars that are in the game, it's obviously supposed to be more powerful because 1, it's more expensive, 2, it's of course an emplacement, so it can't move, it's more vulnerable. To compensate for the adjustments, the unit will be cheaper to give the British faction more readily access to indirect fire smoke. So basically what it's going to be... Oh, the Mortar Pit now spawns up with a single mortar. Okay, this is a pretty big nerf to the Mortar Pit then. So, okay, I see what they're doing. So they haven't actually reduced the range. They've just put a single mortar in the pit, which decreases the firepower by half. It also decreases indirectly the range because it's covering less of an area physically. So there aren't two mortars to be firing everywhere. But at the same time, it decreased the population by a quarter instead of a half. When the firepower got decreased by half, it also decreases the price by less than half. So you're going to be paying comparatively more, and you're going to be occupying comparatively more population. Not the best possible thing. But the Mortar Pit can receive a second upgrade for 160 manpower. Oh, okay, I see. So then the price is exactly the same as the 400 manpower earlier. Huh. That's, it also increases armor by 3 and health by 100, thus bringing it back into line with what it used to be before. And reduces the cooldown of all barrages by 33%. Weird. Autofire range reduced. HE barrage. Oh no, okay, so they have reduced the range by quite a lot actually. So they've reduced the barrage range by a fifth, and the autofire range by about a third, almost a third. So that's pretty harsh actually. But they've increased the smoke barrage range, so they're trying to shift it into more utility, more of a utility focus unit. I'm not sure about it because people really don't use it for the smoke as much. Of course, smoke is useful, but really what people used it for was just defending their own turf from enemy attacks, from harassment, and of course sometimes pressuring against, for example, OKW trucks, which with the changes to the reinforcement point, of course, is less important than before actually. So in a way, it got nerfed, but one of its purposes also doesn't really exist anymore. So as a unit, it's probably not going to be seen quite as much in the favor of something like 4 infantry sections with an early bolster upgrade to just like barrel through the enemy, something like it. That would be a much better use of the manpower for the Brits, I think, in the light of all these changes. Veterancy requirements increased by quite a lot as well, so and the Bofors has had its AoE profile adjusted to be more effective against garrisons to match our autocannons. Okay, yeah, whatever. Centaur AA tank, we've modified it to make it more effective as an AA unit. Okay. We're increasing the power versus garrisons. Okay. Unit's performance against infantry and cover has also been fixed to where it previously only received an accuracy penalty. Okay. So I'm guessing, yeah, okay. It only received an accuracy penalty, but it still did the full damage. So of course, heavy cover actually reduces damage by half. All types of damage, even grenades, etc., etc. So it is just normal that got changed. Crocodile's flamethrower damage is being toned down to be in line with other flamethrowers. Previously, the unit had a second hidden flamethrower attached to its profile that caused it to deal far more damage than other flamethrower tanks. Huh. Interesting. I never really noticed. I mean, for example, the KV-8 does a pretty immense amount of damage regardless of having a second flamethrower or not. The Flamehetzer more noticeably does a lot less damage than the Crocodile, now that I think about it. But for example, I always thought that was just the Flamehetzer being pathetic. Because, for example, the flame projectors on the half tracks, they also do about as much damage as the Crocodile used to and as the KV-8 does. And I think that also the Wasp did less damage, but that's because it got nerfed. But before it used to do the same damage as well. So I really do not know about what they're doing here. Because again, they've also increased the cannon cost without the hammer or the anvil research. And they've decreased the damage. So it's less effective, it's more expensive, without hammer or the anvil research, so you might as well just go for like a comet. Anyway, I don't know. See, really, again, the thing about the Churchill Crocodile is the same thing as the Moira Pit and the 17 pounder. The comparison really isn't as fair, quote unquote, as you may think, because other flamethrower tanks, they're much less expensive than the Churchill Crocodile, and they're more of a more specialized unit. Also, whereas the Churchill Crocodile is just a big heavy tank that you just send it in. Whereas, for example, the KB-8, yes, it's a big heavy tank that you send it in, but it's also one of the few big heavy tanks that the Soviets really have. So it's something that you're going to be a little bit more careful. It's also a little bit faster, so you can do some more flanking maneuvers with it. Its main gun with the 45mm also is much more awkward than the Churchill's 3-inch. So it's really also less useful against light vehicles, etc. You can do more things with the Churchill Crocodile in terms of its arsenal, but it's also got its limitations, which of course it pays off with survivability and the range on the flamethrower. What I would have hit would have been the range of the flamethrower and not the damage of the flamethrower, but oh well. I mean, the damage reduction really isn't all that big. It's 10 and it, wait, no. So they increased the flamethrower damage to 12, but they removed the second one, so I'm guessing the second one did the same damage as the first one, so it's actually a nerf from 20 damage to 12 damage. Huh, weird. Anyway, calling costs without hammer or anvil research for the Churchill AVRE also got increased, that's fine. Raid operation... Oh, that's kind of sad. Okay, so it is no longer possible for pinned squads to capture sectors. That's good. I actually didn't even know that was the case. I'm thinking it was a bug rather than a feature. Affected vehicles now capture and decapture points in normal speed rather than the higher normal values. I kind of dislike that because, of course, it's like not a lot of people use raid operation, but it's actually really a secret OP. So I'm guessing that the nerf isn't the worst thing possible. But I don't know. I just kind of like its like feel. Wehrmacht. We're at the end, right? Yeah, maybe only the Soviets are left. Ostwind has its damage increased against the AA, so of course it's the AA rework. Minimum range removed to match all the other AI tanks or anti-infantry tanks, and its projectile will no longer collide with terrain landscape to improve its anti-infantry performance on rough ground. And I don't like that actually, because to have more ways to counterplay certain vehicles like these is actually a good thing rather than a bad thing. In fact, I'm pretty certain that pretty much every autocannon unit except the Lukes, yeah, except probably the Lukes and maybe just maybe the American A half track, all of those also have their shells collide with the ground. So that just also kind of removes options for the player that's trying to counter the Ostwind. I mean, the Ostwind can be very, very effective, but you have to be careful about how you use it in certain ways. Whereas now they remove the things you have to be careful about, and they just made it really, really strong. So I'm guessing more Ostwinds are going to be seen, also more OKW Ostwinds, because the changes also affect the OKW Ostwind, which is good because, you know, it's nice to streamline things and keep them quite simple so that people can follow them. MG42 mounts, of course, more damage versus aircraft because of the AA rework. Calling cost without battle phase 3 of the Elephant increased to quite a lot. Damage reduced. Population increased. What? Well, yeah, they were found to be too dominant in team games thanks to their ability to shut down all forms of allied armor while remaining relatively population efficient. But at this point, I think that the Elephant really is never going to be seen outside of team games, because one, it does less damage, and two, it's more expensive. Well, you're still going to have people using it, of course, sometimes it's still going to be very effective, but it's not going to be quite as good as it used to be, of course. Speed of the Tiger increased. So the Tiger is receiving a mobility and speed boost to better reflect the Tiger's position in between the more armored S2 and the faster Pershing. These changes do not affect the Tiger Ace. Why? I'm not sure. See, again, relic of the weirdness. I praise them for streamlining things, and then 2 minutes later they don't. Weird. Then they increase acceleration and deceleration. So it's just a mobility boost in general. Command P4, more expensive without the battle phase 3. Or the support armor core. Oh, I like what they're doing. Okay, so for example, the Command Panzer 3, you can either have a support armor core built, which is from the Battle Phase 2, or you can have a Battle Phase 3 without the Heavy Panzer Core, which is the building that you get from Battle Phase 3. So I actually really like what they're doing there, giving the player more options. Shugji's target weak point is being moved in line with other units like the Puma. The ability lasted too long, disabling a target vehicle for yeah, I know, that's a really nice change. Whoa, from 15, it used to be 15, the target weak point. That's pretty strong, actually. And they decrease the damage, and now blinds the target in addition to disabling the target's weapons. Well, blind isn't really the worst possible crit ever, so I guess it's fine. And the target weak point will always penetrate. I believe that was the case before too, I'm not sure though. Shtugi is using its target weak point to push the unit towards the general anti-infantry that is gaining a pinto-mounted machine gun from Veteran C1. Huh. Weird. LDFH... Oh! Okay, so that's the artillery piece for the Germans. They have decreased the manpower cost, but they've added a fuel cost. So what this does is it makes it more accessible in team games where you're very likely to have someone with a lot of fuel caches. So fuel is going to be in general more plentiful. Whereas in manpower, of course, manpower production is what actually makes this cheaper. Not entirely sure on the change. Going to have to see how it works in the game. Suppressions being removed from the Panzer for the unit could destroy infantry far too easily to the fact that players would lose control of their troops when their barrage landed. They could have just retreated. That's what, I do all the time. If I get Panzerwerfer and my units get pinned, I retreat. This actually takes away a pretty important, use for the Panzerwerfer, which was to stop pushes dead in their tracks. Not just by causing casualties, but also doing suppression. Huh. Weird. Very weird. Stuka Dive Bomb. Increased AoE damage multiplier. But also increased the cost from, I believe, 180 to 200? Are we sure? 160 or 180? Something like it. And removal of its instant death against infantry to better reflect its painful accuracy, lack of flare warning, and large AoE radius. So it will no longer instantly kill infantry within its AoE radius. Perhaps previously it could kill instantly an infantry battle. Yeah, I know. But is it still going to be able to instantly kill things or not? I'm not sure. I mean, at least in the close AoE. Yeah, okay. In the close AoE, it still can one-shot things. I think. It should. Anyway, whatever. 251 flak half-track. Okay, so that's for the OKW. The LEIG, this is a unit that really needs some tweaking. And to increase the micro requirements, but also perform more effectively versus fortified positions. That's exactly what the LEIG needed as a change, because you just plop it down into one area and it would just be an orbital strike machine. So the auto-fire range from 100 max 40 men to 70 max 30 men. So it's got 30 less from the max, which is good. Barrage range from 100 max 40 men to 85 max 25 men. So also the barrage range got decreased. These are both good changes. I like them. Now as the smoke barrage, Okay. More utility, that's good. AoE radius increased. AoE distance increased. Max scatter increased. Angle scatter increased. A bunch of things increased. So it's not as useful against soft targets. And the firing cone is also lower. So that also decreases its utility as just a orbital strike machine without barrage micro, because of course you're going to have to be turning it around much more. Weapon horizontal speed from 3 to 8. Okay. Cost reduced. Population or penetration reduced. Huh. So you'd think with its new role as sort of a sniper with its barrage ability, you'd keep that penetration to make it more useful against light vehicles. And of course the population decreased. That would have kept the penetration, but the other changes left them. Veteran C1 range boost is now replaced by hollow charge shot. The ability is a direct fire anti-vehicle attack. Okay. Weird. So it's a direct fire. So it's essentially a light AT gun with the ability. Only 15 munitions, so that's good. And the cost of the LFH-40 OKW has also been changed the same way as the Wehrmacht one. Sorry, I just knocked something down. JP4, okay, so the stealth is now weaker. Good. The stealth of that Panzer IV was just ridiculous. And the Veteran C5 got nerfed. In some ways. Well, actually, no, the Veteran C5 got nerfed and then the Veteran C2 got nerf buffed. Good, because the Veteran C of the Panzer IV was extremely powerful, and so making it a little bit in tune with the other vehicles is pretty good. The Jagdtiger is also being nerfed, it seems. Of course, with the Cullen changes, and then the accuracy matches Elephant. Accuracy, good. Okay, so it's basically the same as the Elephant. Damage the same as the Elephant, even though it's more expensive than the Elephant. Range reduced, although I think it's still going to be a little bit more than the Elephant. Not entirely sure on that. Don't quote me on it. Should really have the stats open for something like this. Supporting fire range from 125 to 85. Okay, so that's the anti-infantry HE ability. Decrease the range on that to be more in line with the normal main cannon. That's fine, I guess. I didn't really ever see people using that ability, even though it was really cute, but whatever. Veteran C4 bonus rotation reduced. Okay, so less survivable of Veteran C4. Engine upgrade no longer provides a 20% rotation bonus. Population increased. The Jagdtiger now suffers a short stun upon receiving penetrating hits on rear armor, ignored when the Jagdtiger... I thought it already did that, though. I remember it doing that before anyway. It was really easy to stun up a Jagdtiger when coming up their rear. But oh well. So now the Jagdtiger is actually very vulnerable in general, because it's got less rotation even from the engine upgrade, and it's... Of course, its weakness is that it's very clumsy. Supporting fire, however, is now available without Veteran C. And now ignores terrain and landscape, so more useful against infantry and especially against buildings and emplacements. But they've reduced the AoE. So yes, it's basically going to be a little bit more of an anti-emplacement damager than anything else. Kalmvad, okay, so that's the Ostwind, the Hetzer, the Command Panther, the Sturm Tiger. All these are fine. The Walking Stuka, really? To make the unit less devastating. I never really thought that the Walking Stuka was really that overpowered in the last few patches. I saw it really perform quite badly and really well, just like every other artillery unit, but Huh, after the last round of nerfs to the Walking Stick, I really wasn't expecting another one. I think this is definitely a little bit excessive. Although they have reduced the cost and the pop cap and the build time. So the AoE, okay, at close it's still pretty okay. It's at the max distance that the AoE damage is much reduced, so it's gonna be less than ideal. AoE distance. Oh wow. Okay. What's angle scatter? I actually don't know what that is. What is that stat? Somebody please tell me. Distance scatter max from 0 to 1055. Okay, so they've just... Yeah. And they've increased the Fog of War scatter multiplier. So now, if you fire into the Fog of War, just like every other artillery piece in the game, you're going to have a higher chance of missing the target that you're wanting to hit. That's good. But in general, this seems like a very harsh nerf, actually, for the Walking Stuka. Base flak emplacement can no longer target aircraft. Okay, good. I like that a lot. Because that is going to make some abilities like the supply drop a lot more useful. Sturm Officer. Also, it's like the lieutenant and the captain now. Cubewagon more vulnerable to light arms fire and cause less manpower bleed in the early game. Finally. Yeah, that's actually really good. Because, well, the Cubewagon was a bit of a terror. Especially with people spamming them. Okay, I'll be starting weapon crews. Oh. So the crews were actually 100% Volksgrenadiers. I didn't know. So now they're going to be having half the damage. And they're going to be taking also more fire because the received accuracy has gone above 1. So it's going to be easier to hit them. And they've decreased the reinforcement cost to match that. I think that they should have decreased the reinforcement cost to something like 18. Because I believe other weapon teams have about half the reinforcement cost of a normal infantry guy in exchange for, of course, having half the damage. But I might be wrong. And then finally the Soviets. The Penal Battalion is receiving a reduction in their potency on fire on the move performance to be more in line with other infantry. Furthermore, the Penals will now need to upgrade to PTRS to have the ability to stick satchels to vehicles. That's awesome. I love that. So force players to purchase the upgrades, reducing their anti-infantry fire in return if they want to ward off vehicles. The anti-vehicle satchel, however, will be made more reliable as players will have a clear indicator of which squads will need to. Which squads they will need to avoid. I do not know what that is, actually. Whatever. Yeah, that's really good because, of course, the penals... With the penals being the way they were, there was really no reason to go for conscripts in the last patch. So, of course, now conscripts are useful again in a way. They should probably buff AT grenades, however, or buff conscripts in general, because, of course, the reason that people spam penals that way is because conscripts were just so damn garbage, and this nerf to the penals isn't going to make conscripts any better. It's just going to make them more palatable because the penals are worse, and because people are going to need a snare in the early game. Maxim is receiving some boost to its ability to acquire and respond to targets with its arc. Base suppression is also being raised to help the Maxim performance intended role, and its rate of fire at a distance is being increased where it suffered the most. Change will boost high damage and suppression at long range. That's good, because the Maxim got some pretty ridiculous nerfs in the last few patches, so... Okay, they just tweaked a few things that could just make the Maxim useful again. And the Dushka looks like it's gonna get really heavily nerfed. Even still, I mean, I never really thought that Dushka was so OP. Like, you could just really easily flank it. It had a arc of fire of like 30 degrees. It was really pathetic. It was just a little tiny bit better than the old Maxim. But oh well, they increased the reinforcement cost, that's fine. Traverse speed decreased. Oh, that's actually really, really terrible because, of course, as I said, its arc of fire is bad. So the traverse speed being lower is actually a very, very harsh nerf to a unit that, might I remember, and might I point out, it's a call-in, and it's expensive as hell. It's like 280 manpower. Wait, maybe even 300. Don't remember. I'm bad. But yes, it's a call-in, so of course it's supposed to be really good. I mean, it's one of these 5 things that you're supposed to, rely upon to differentiate yourself from the normal units. So if it isn't good, you're gonna have a flame hetzer situation where it's just like, why would I even, bother with the Lend-Lease if I can't get Dushkas, if the M4C Shermans are now nerfed and that they can't really come out before you have a tier 4. Yeah, I mean, the assault guards really aren't good enough to justify the picking of Lend-Lease, and I don't think Conscript Repair really is the same, nor the supply drop, but oh well. So it seems like while the aim time also, actually the aim time got decreased. Good. Population increased, setup time increased, so in general it's just going to be harder to use, okay. And the calling cost without the Mechanized Armor Company attack, of course, much, much higher by 60 fuel and 160 manpower. And Veterans wants secure point ability replaced with the OF 471 fragmentation shell? Okay, so it's a shell that does a lot of damage, but it doesn't kill a lot of things, and it also applies mini stuns to vehicles hit. Ignores landscape and terrain. Oh, damn it. So they replaced the secure point with another utility ability, though one that's more offensive focused than, of course, capturing. I mean, you normally wouldn't use the S2 as a secure point bot anyway. You'd use T-34s. But I still don't like that they removed the secure point, because the secure point is one of those things that just makes Soviet vehicles apart. It just pulls them apart from all the other vehicles, gives them a whole new dimension to how you can use them. And now it's gone for the S2, of course. Then the SU-152 got the same change. They increased the HE far damage, and they increased AoE distances as well. So the HE rounds and the concrete piece of shells also will never collide with terrain. Okay, so it's gonna do less wiping than before. I think that that's bad for the SU-152 because the SU-152 was really reliant upon the ability to wipe out enemy infantry really, really quickly. Although in general it's not the worst possible change, it's still going to be useful, I'm guessing. So it seems like all the heavy tank destroyers got a pretty big nerf, which is good because those units can be annoying. But they're also really easy to deal with, whatever, I don't know. So KB1 got secure mode replaced with KB1 hull down, increases fire rate by 15% and damage resistance by 20%. So the KB1 has a hull down. It's going to be worthless because it's a hull down. Nobody likes hull down. And its health got increased, so finally a bit of a buff to the KB1. But it's also got a huge nerf in that it's requiring the Mechanized Armor Compagnia tech instead of the... what's the other one called? Support Armor Compagnia? I don't remember. The tier 3. I really don't know. I actually really don't know. The KB1's a unit that I tend to think more as a mid-game unit rather than a late-game unit myself, because it's just so damn pathetic. It's like its gun can't penetrate big German heavies, and the big German heavies can penetrate it with quite a bit of ease. Its armor is pretty effective against certain types of German mediums and against a lot of AT guns, but still. Anyway, KB8 armor increased. Ooh, strong. B4 Howitzer got that same LEFH treatment, and then the ML20, of course, got the Howitzer treatment as well. And getting a boost to the AoE as well, so more damage for it, thankfully, because that thing was pathetic. And the M5 quad mount, okay, got the AA rework. We've improved the following aspects of various units that fire shells and an arc trajectory that would increase their reliability. There were a number of issues, blah 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 blah. So firing arcs, quality of life, and then a bunch of things. These don't seem to be too important. They probably are. You can just pause and read them. I don't have the strength at this point to do it because I'm about to fall asleep. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown. So in general, it looks like heavy tank destroyers will be less important, whereas on-map fixed gun RD will be more important, whereas rocket artillery will slightly be cut down to size. So I kind of like these changes because, of course, the on-map artillery is more vulnerable to enemy attack than rocket artillery, which of course usually is mobile. And at the same time, they've also reduced the effectiveness of some particularly annoying units to face, such as the Mortar Pit and the LAIG, whereas they've also decreased the effectiveness of some particularly annoying strategies to face, like the turtling around a forward retreat point. Some other changes are more meh category, like, for example, that, well, that Stuka change was really weird. And then, of course, the, which one was it? Stuka Dive Bomb one I didn't really understand, and the Stug E was also really weird. And then the Ostwind one was also really, really weird. I didn't really fully understand that. Some other changes are okay. Some other changes are missing. Again, where is the conscript update? I mean, the conscripts really need some kind of usefulness, because they're basically the jack of all trades, master of none extraordinaires of Company of Heroes 2. And so if they did get a tiny amount of specialization, perhaps tied to their veterancy, that would be welcome. But other than that, I guess I like everything else. I especially like the way they kind of reworked the call-in system. I especially enjoy that. So yes, thank you for watching. Please remember to comment down below, tell me what you think, and I'll see you soon. Or in this case, I'll see you right after with the Company of Heroes cast on the balance patch game. So yeah, click on it, do it.